welcome to our life sciences stage. I hope you found the sessions this morning interesting and insightful, but we're going to take a slight pivot and we will explore how innovation, AI are driving groundbreaking advancements in the field of life sciences. Life sci is obviously at the heart of transformative discoveries, from life-saving therapies to cutting-edge medical research. And at Patsnap, we understand the challenges that are faced by researchers, scientists, and innovators in navigating data, especially data that can be as complex as life sciences data, such as things like antibodies, sequences, drugs, targets, etc., as well as increasing pressures such as accelerating time to market and ensuring impactful results. So our next couple of sessions in this stage will showcase how AI and smarter insights are empowering life science professionals to overcome these challenges and push the boundaries. To kick us off, we have a fireside chat focusing on the unique opportunities and obstacles faced by emerging biopharma companies. These orgs are the lifeblood of innovation, but they must navigate a highly competitive and rapidly evolving landscape. Joining me in this discussion, I am very delighted to welcome Jennifer Birdman, the Managing Director at Sovgarder Investment Management. With her extensive experience, Jennifer will provide valuable insights into what it takes for biopharma innovators to succeed. Jennifer has been named one of the top 25 female leaders in biotech by the Healthcare Technology Report. She's been a rising star in Washington, D.C. She's been profiled as a Law 360 rising star and named to their IP Editorial Advisory Board. She's also on Benchmark Litigation's Under 40 Hot List, published in several publications, so among many other impressive accolades. So I'm going to take a moment and let's give Jennifer a very warm welcome to the stage. Hello, Jennifer. How are you doing?
Hello. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
No problem. I think a woman such as yourself deserves such an introduction. But we've got some great questions lined up for this fireside chat. And if you guys have any questions throughout the session, feel free to pop them in the chat box on the right. But to start, Jennifer, your career has spanned roles in IP litigation, portfolio development, and now investment management. I'm curious how your journey has shaped your perspective on driving innovation in life sciences and biotech.
Yeah, thanks. I would say that it obviously has shaped everything that I do. Some might call it, you've got the baggage from your prior experiences. I would say it's less about baggage and more just about experience and knowledge. So I started my career actually doing patent prosecution as a paralegal and then a patent agent, then moved to litigation. And so I bring a litigator's mind to everything that I do. After spending so many years litigating and being embedded in companies with the technology teams and the legal teams, I decided that I wanted to jump and stay with the business teams to do more. After litigation, even when you're very successful, nobody wants to see you again. Right? Nobody loves that moment of litigation. And so being able to really spend time in a business and understand the inner workings of how you make the decisions, not just about where to invest on the innovation side, but then in the protection side on patents and trade secrets and the like. So yeah, I bring it all to bear, and now I get to sit on the other side of the table.
Amazing. I think your career journey has been super interesting. So you'll bring a lot of insights from all different aspects of innovation, from the IP side, now the investment side, even on the the R&D side a little bit. So I'm excited to see some of the insights that we come through. Emerging biotech and life science companies are at the forefront of innovation, but they definitely face some unique challenges. So from your perspective, what do you think is most exciting about supporting these companies in your current role?
So the speed and the scale of innovation right now is really amazing to watch, and just to be on the sidelines of the inventors as they're coming up with it is really incredible. The legal teams obviously have to keep pace with that, which is a challenge to be able to understand where your business is going, and how to protect it at every step of the game there, and also how to make sure that you are doing things that are useful for the investment community to see how innovative your company is. Now, traditionally, that's been very much in the patent side of the house. How many patents do you have? Are they strong patents? Show me your patents. What are you going to do with them? Um, but being able to keep pace in that way is really the forefront of the legal technology. And so when I sit on the investment side now, I have all of those same questions that were asked of me, but I think maybe I bring a different spin on it because I know what that feels like to be grilled by the investment community. Um, when you're sitting in house uh, and trying to keep pace with your team. Nobody has an unlimited budget to spend filing patent applications. So really finding ways to be smart about that has been incredibly exciting and fun over the course of my career.
I love it. You get to be strategic, and now you sit on the other side from where you were, getting to ask the questions a little bit more is very exciting.
I do hope that I don't just ask questions, but that I can help companies along the way think through, how to best protect their innovation in a way that then can also be used to monetize. Because ultimately what we're talking about is a business and running the business, whether it's just the innovation itself and developing that into a product, or, filing the IP in patent applications and the like, and then being able to license those out to the commercialization side of the house. So I love the aspect of being able to work with companies to do both.
Amazing. I think you probably bring a unique strategic perspective as well, having been on both sides, which is definitely very valuable, at least in my opinion.
Well, thank you. I hope so.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Great. So I think we can dive a little bit more into the biotech innovation landscape. And it's definitely, as you've mentioned, in a roundabout way, high stakes, high reward. It's fast moving. There's a lot going on there. But what do you see as being some of the key drivers of innovation for emerging life science and biopharma companies today?
Yeah, I think the key driver is that we haven't solved disease. It's almost 2025. And when you look at the number of diseases and illnesses that we face, and then the sort of problem solved, there's not, it's not an equal balance. There's so much more to do. And so I think that drives the innovation for sure. We have to mention AI. All the panelists have, right? That's definitely an innovation push. But it's not like that's never happened before either. And I think one of your earlier speakers was talking about the fact that if any of us were to say, oh, I don't use email or I don't use the internet on a daily basis, if not an hourly basis in my job, that would be incredibly foolish and unprofessional. And so I think the fact that we have AI and all of these diseases and these unmet needs, that's really driving the innovation, but it's people behind that, right? It's the people at these companies that are pushing forward to solve these problems with the use of these tools. We're in a really interesting space legally with all of this, and with the patent side particularly, because everybody wants to say and use AI to help them in their role. It's a double-edged sword because on the one hand, these patent offices around the world are saying, well, AI can't be an inventor. And you have to be awfully careful about how much you're using AI if your company wants to be able to protect the innovation with a patent going forward. At the same time, if you say you're using AI, which I think we've all established you kind of have to at this point, then regulatory bodies are going to say, give me more information. What kind of AI are you using? Is it open source? Is it not? And so finding the right balance on how you talk about the use of the tools and then how you actually implement your usage in a company, throughout the company, whether that's in the legal department or in the R&D space, is really a moment.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like you said, it's just like email, but AI is just the new thing. And if you aren't exactly adopting it, eventually it's going to become so mainstream. It will be just like email. We're just on the brink of it where it is the new hot tool. So I think it does bring a lot of excitement, especially in the life sciences side.
It definitely does. But I think, diving deep into how it's used is a really important factor. And it's one of the things I have loved throughout my career about being a patent attorney and with the innovators and the inventors learning technology. And so I would really just encourage everyone to sit with your teams and learn how the AI is actually being used. Like, what does it mean to say AI? What is a model? What is data? What does training set mean? Because you're going to have to tease all of that out to be able to appropriately protect it and then monetize, whether it's the AI itself that you're developing or the output of your AI.
Yeah, I think it's like all about asking questions, right? It's kind of new for everybody. So ask those questions and dive into it and really try and understand it as best as you can if it's something that you don't understand, and see what it can do for you.
Absolutely. I want to say it's almost like a deposition with your inventors, except you don't know the answer to the question. So like be open-ended and let them, tell you about it, but be inquisitive and learn, because that is where, it's going to help drive the innovation. And you're going to have to be able to talk about how your team used it in order to get to the answers to help solve these problems that are, at the forefront of driving the innovation for life sciences.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. And I think we can touch a little bit on how these tools can be helpful, maybe for smaller companies, especially when there's large players in there, especially coming to research development and the assets that they have. How do you think that smaller companies can best leverage this ability to compete with
Right.
those?
Small companies have an agility advantage because there's less bureaucracy, less people, less, layers of approval. That's great. And they can move quickly. Of course, you need to be really careful. You need to be nimble with intentionality and bring your legal team along to ensure that you're doing it in a way that is appropriate and protectable and defensible. The litigator in me is always thinking about how this is going to look in a litigation. Because again, patents are assets to be monetized, particularly in the life sciences space, right? There's a whole statutory scheme in place for generic drugs to come in and challenge the validity of, the innovator, the patent innovator, and the first on the drug. So thinking about how your team is using the AI. And again, this is much easier to do early, right? It's really tough to come into companies that have processes and procedures in place for not AI and then overlay, okay, but now that we're using AI, how are we going to do this? One example is with lab notebooks. I started my career when lab notebooks were actually a piece of paper, a notebook. And I got my bachelor's degree in biochemistry and molecular biology. I'm pretty sure I recollect that, we had classes teaching us how to use a lab notebook, how to write in a lab notebook. And then there was a transformation into electronic lab notebooks, ELNs. And that was like an amazing development, but it took training and it took an adjustment in companies. Right now, I think small companies probably don't even start up with paper lab notebooks. You just start with your ELN, and so that's great. The same thing needs to happen in the AI space. Having a lab notebook for the use of data and modeling is a new concept. Being able to track the provenance of the information from beginning to end, it's going to be necessary when we're talking about drug development, medical devices, that sort of thing. So a small company being nimble and being able to implement that early and quickly is going to have a first mover advantage in a way to a large company that's not going to be able to track that information in the same way quite as quickly. And so maybe will be less able to have that defensible moment whenever it comes. So, I see a lot of partnerships now in these small companies between the R&D space, the legal, IP space, also IT, your best friend now.
100%. And it's funny you say that. My background is also in biopharma. So in university, I was taking all those classes, and I remember those, learning how to take lab notes and learning how to write in the lab notebook. And it's in a few short years, I feel like it's already starting to change a lot, and it's going to continue to change. But to echo your point, I definitely think it brings agility to those smaller companies and helps them compete with the big players, where they might have maybe not infinite resources, but definitely infinitely more than a smaller company. So being able to compete effectively with things like AI and different technologies kind of helps put them on the map, so to speak.
Sure. And it might not even be a competition in the first instance, right?
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of the bigger companies really relying on small companies to do this amazing innovation with AI in the biopharma space, and then licensing or selling their developments to big pharma. So again, you have to think about that early enough in your company so you've got your patent strategy, your trade secret strategy lined up with that moment. I think small companies really do need to think about who they want to be when they grow up. That doesn't have to be big pharma or a huge company that's commercializing their own IP. It can be an innovation hub that then spins out the technology to those who already have commercialization capabilities and sales forces and the like. But you really do have to have a strategy when you're starting to file your patent applications, so that when you get to that moment of transaction, you're ready.
Such a full circle moment of what do you want to be when you grow up as a kid, and still back to it as a corporate professional of what do you want to be when you grow up when you're starting your company.
It's a very similar moment. I think it might, paralyze some companies, and some companies I've seen, don't know who they want to be or change their mind mid, early stage in the first 5 years. And I think there's a lot of reliance on the patent professionals and IP lawyers to create a scenario that allows for that kind of optionality. And in doing so, you really need to think about what's your budget going to be, because oftentimes that's the last thing on the line items, right? You're not given enough money to prosecute patents all around the world on every innovation that your team, the R&D team, comes up with. Just thinking about it ahead of time and talking about it in providing optionality. Should you pivot? We were going to commercial, but now this opportunity has come up and we're only 4 years in. Maybe we should just out license. Being ready to do that is a great advantage. And, I know you had some folks on earlier talking about showing it to investors. Early on, being able to show them that you've thought through your strategy and that optionality, and no matter what, you're building your moat around your technology so that you are attractive to third parties for that licensing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, kind of full circle, coming back to you also on the investment side now as well.
I've come full circle too. See, I didn't know who I wanted to be when I grew up either. Here we are.
I think a pivot is always okay. You learn new things, new challenges.
Absolutely.
Great. I think what I want to do next is, we've danced around AI a little bit, but I think we can maybe dive in a little deeper and, talk about AI and advanced analytics and these technologies, because they really are transforming drug discovery and development. So in your professional opinion, how do you see these technologies shaping the future of biotech?
Well, they absolutely have to be used. The fact that we have this ability to analyze data, not just vast quantities of data, but in new ways without the biases that we've already put on them, on the data that is just amazing. Again, there's just this human component that we cannot forget, because we're not in a place where you ask AI the question, please provide me with a drug that cures breast cancer, and it spits out the answer. We're not there yet. And so understanding how the tools can be used and then using them thoughtfully to push forward is absolutely the future, even on the legal side, right? So I don't think that there's going to be the separations we've seen in departments anymore. In biotech companies now, you see data scientists sitting with wet lab scientists, sitting with engineers, computer engineers who are developing the modeling. Everyone needs to learn each other's language, and maybe we're going to have a new language. The same goes with the patent professionals sitting with the teams. I know Patsnap, I've been using Patsnap since maybe 2018, have come a long way. You have data that is not just useful for the in-house attorney or the outside patent attorney, but also for the R&D teams. Every piece of information, the data in a patent application, is being ingested in models around the world at BioPharma companies on a daily, if not hourly basis. I mean, it is just incredible to me. And when I talk to people about that fact, that now the patent world is not separate from the R&D space, it shocks them a little bit, right? But it's going to change, and is changing everything about what we do and how we do it on a daily basis. And thinking outside the box in that way to understand data and information, I think is just going to be critical to how things move forward in the future.
Amazing. 100%. I agree. And like you said, everybody's working together now. We're getting rid of some of that siloed work, or it's becoming a part where everybody's getting rid of that siloed work and working in tandem, instead of, one person's doing one thing, the IP team's doing something else. Maybe your engineers and data scientists are doing their own thing. It's becoming a much more cohesive picture. And I think it's really helping to drive innovation forward and streamlining the process. And with something like life sciences, where we're working on therapies, like you said, for something like cancer or even a neurodegenerative disease, the technology can really play an important role in ensuring those innovations actually translate into a real world impact, and that the teams are working together strategically.
Just think about how fast, we need to ingest that information, all of the data, and then, have an output that can be either acted on or needs to be analyzed even further. I think that is why smaller companies have the first mover advantage right now, because you can have all your groups sit together in a room brainstorming about all of this, and then implementing the use of AI, Gen AI, to move forward. Whereas maybe in a big company, it's not as easy to break down those silos. I would just encourage every patent professional to get in there. You no longer stay in your lane because you don't have a lane. Patents have become a source of data. Clinical trial information is a source of data. Everything has to be considered and analyzed right now. And if you don't know how your team is doing that, I really encourage you to go sit there, because there's also innovation there that you could be protecting, whether by a patent application to start or a trade secret.
Yeah, I think you've got it 100%. And we've also kind of gone, again, full circle to that pivot, or you don't know what you want to be when you grow up. Like you've done the IP side strictly, but get your hands a little bit dirty, join the R&D team, go talk to them, go sit in a room and brainstorm together. And it will be really effective.
Yeah, and then go try to sit with the C-suite and hear about what they're discussing. They also have to understand the speed at which everything is moving, and how critical it is to be protecting the innovation from an IP perspective. Because like your earlier speakers mentioned, the intangible assets are really what is so valuable in these companies, and these assets will be monetized one way or the other. You know, whether you're going to use them to protect your position in the market, out-license them, show investors, show the investment community, use as collateral for loans. These intangible assets are the heart and soul of companies. And so if you don't know what your company is doing, then you can't be advising them properly on how to protect.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I think that leads us nicely as we start to talk more about the intangible assets and IP, because it obviously plays a very critical role in protecting everything that you're working on. So what would be your, what do you think are the most critical considerations for biotech companies when they are building out their strategy?
I think the most critical issue is to have a strategy. It can't be an afterthought. It can't just be, oh, and our attorneys file patent applications when an inventor, sends us an invention disclosure form. Invention disclosure forms are another relic, I think, that's going by the wayside because it just takes too much effort. And because R&D teams are moving so fast, it might get skipped over. They might not see the importance of the innovation. So have a strategy that starts with, who do you want to be when you grow up as a company, right? Thinking through how your IP assets will be used in the future and how to give yourselves optionality. And only the company can know what the market looks like. They're the best experts. They're the subject matter experts of what they're doing. But how do you build that moat to give yourselves the head start and then protect what you've been doing, so that when you sit with the investors, when you sit with your board of directors, you can explain, this is the strategy, this is how we're executing, and oh, by the way, this is what it's going to cost, and so I need a budget line item. And not a budget line item that's buried in like the legal budget, right? Because that often gets shifted and moved throughout the year and the development side. So really having that strategy in the first place and being able to articulate it is really key. Don't leave the lawyer or the IP professional behind when the C-suite is going out and speaking on all this. Everybody has to be aligned in what that strategy looks like.
Yeah, 100%. Getting everybody on the same page, having everybody in the same room, brainstorming, sitting together, working on it. That's really an important asset, I think. But how do you think that companies can balance this, maybe more strategic bit where they have to figure out what they want to do, figure out who they want to be when they grow up, along with the immediate pressure to show value from people like investors and stakeholders? I think you bring a unique perspective now being on the investment side.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the recognition that you're going to need patents, right? You're just going to. Like, that's just a fact. And the concept that, well, AI is not really patentable, or the output might not be as patentable if AI invented it, so we just give up and we throw up our hands, I think that's incredibly short-sighted. That can't be where the discussion ends. Figure out what you can file patents on. And listen, even if today the lawyers tell you, well, it might not be very strong when you want to litigate it in 10 years. Nobody has a crystal ball on what the law is going to look like then, right? Maybe we'll catch up a little bit. The courts will catch up a little bit on the AI development piece, but think about that and give the company that optionality and file patent applications. Be cognizant, though, that every piece of information you're putting in that patent application is going to be published in 18 months and ingested as data, as information into everyone's AI in that space, right, and used for the next development. So be smart about how you write it. And that means don't just let the AI bot, right? Write your patent applications. That is not ethically appropriate. Come to the table when you're speaking to investors smart. Let them know that you've thought through all of these issues and here's the decisions you've made. Because maybe they're not the best decisions or the right decisions if we use hindsight 10 years from now, but at least you've thought it through and you have a plan. And oftentimes investors, early stage, will say, if I give you a little bit more money, what could you do? What other optionality is there? So don't give up just because it's expensive or the law is changing and hasn't caught up and you're using AI. Find really good advisors who can help you on the how to file, what to file, where to file.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for any biotech or life sciences or even beyond that organizations on the call. Maybe the 2 words would be strategic and persevere through it.
Yeah, be brave, but have the information. You can have information at your fingertips now. And I like to say I'm a failed scientist. I know a lot of patent attorneys, they are scientists, they were scientists. We like information, we like data. And so what are your competitors doing in the filings field? Where have they filed? Recently, last year, I guess, there was a lot of talk about the UPC, Unitary Patent Court, and there was this knee-jerk reaction in all the conferences I was at that everybody would say, oh no, we're opting everything out, and I'm just too scared of it. It's the unknown. And when you actually look at the data, that's not what happened. That is not what happened. And so get data, be smart, provide for optionality, and be able to talk about it, have the conversations. And what could you do with a little bit more money? How are you stretching your money as far as it will go, whatever that budget is on the protection piece? Certainly partner with your IT folks for protection of trade secrets, because everybody's using, I've got trade secrets now because I can't patent all of this AI stuff. Well, are you protecting it? That's a huge budget line item too.
100%. And I feel like we can echo again. It's okay if you don't know what you want to be when you grow up, but you can be brave and think about it. And it kind of brings me to our closing thoughts, more specific to you, because you have been an advocate for women in IP and technology leadership roles. And we've talked a lot about what you want to be when you grow up and all of that. But what advice would you give to young professionals, maybe particularly even women who aspire to get to leadership roles like yourself one day?
Yeah, I would say, be confident in what you know, learn what you don't know, watch those around you in the leadership positions, and figure out what it's going to take from a knowledge base to get there. And once you have it, don't be afraid to speak up, don't be shy. Raise your hand, take the seat at the table. Pay attention to how others have climbed, men, women, non-binary, everyone. When I was starting my career, I thought you put your head down, you do good work, it'll be recognized. That is not usually the case. Network. Let your network know what your goals are. Let your networks know when you're thinking of pivoting or unsure. There's a lot of talk about sponsorship and mentorship. I think that happens organically if you put yourself out there. It was hard during the pandemic, right? Everybody was sort of having to do this via Zoom. Now you can be in person at things, go to as many in-person events as you can, and network, and don't give up.
Yeah, you really can't.
Reach out to me. I would love to talk to anybody who wants to about career path. It's not just about the network you have, it's about the network of the people in your network. So build the web, reach out to me, ask me. I'm happy to connect you with folks who are in the space that you are and can help you along the way.
I love it. I think that's very kind of you, for one, and I can echo that Jennifer is a great person to talk to. I've got to know her a little bit over the past couple of years, and it's always a pleasure chit-chatting with you, and I think you bring really great insight, especially since you've got so much career experience and different kinds of career experience.
Thank you.
Of course. And we have one final question, looking forward. And I would just love to know, what trends do you think in the life sciences and biotech? So in the future, what do you think will have the most significant impact on the industry?
I think the most significant impact is going to be the people at the top, the people in leadership who are making the decisions. And we need diversity of thought leadership at the top to ensure that we are making the best decisions possible to move forward, particularly in the life sciences area. There's so much to be done. The more diverse voices we can get at the top, helping lead us in the right direction, I think the better off we will be.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate your time. And that brings us to the end of our little fireside chat here. So a very heartfelt thank you, Jennifer, for this insightful discussion. I think it's clear. It's okay if you don't want to know what you want to be when you grow up, as one thing. But it's also clear that there's a lot of potential and opportunity in the life sciences space. And I think some of your stories and experiences will definitely resonate with a lot of the people on the call. So just thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.